Welcome to Backyard Cigars. So glad that you could join me again because today's a little extra special for me in that I'm reviewing a cigar of a legendary, longtime mainstay cigar maker with in New York City. And that is saying a lot because so many different types of companies and businesses fail in the Big Apple. And when it comes to cigar makers, I mean, they're supposed to be extinct, aren't they? I mean, if you read down the history lines and or if you were alive and you remember the late '70s or even the late '80s, when really no one was smoking cigars and there was really no demand to have a cigar maker in New York City, or just so it seemed, right? Because the sales had declined and the boom was decades away. But in 1974, they decided to open up a shop in New York City. In 1974, people were still smoking cigars, and one could say that in the early to mid 70s, specifically in New York City, there was still a demand for cigars. But you fast forward that 10 years later, 1984, and things didn't look as bright. Now, don't get me wrong, Martinez Cigars has always done well for itself, primarily because they adapt very quickly and they've always made really good cigars. And they have these priorities that a lot of cigar makers have. But let's face it, there are cigar makers out there that will take shortcuts or will sacrifice a little bit of the quality to mass produce something to fit a certain need. So it's done for a good cause. But when you're talking about a small shop that really depends on, well, depended, because it's no longer the case, but depended on word of mouth and on just, you know, the value of their cigars and how good they were for that value. So that all mattered to them. As a small shop, they had to stick to those principles. They couldn't veer away and get away with it. It just wouldn't work for them the way it would work for a larger manufacturer or a manufacturer with a more popular line. But in New York City, Martinez Cigars is the king. And this is the 50th anniversary cigar from Martinez Cigars. It was released, I think, a few months ago at one of the conventions. I believe it was in Las Vegas. And and this cigar was gifted to me by Jesus Martinez himself. And I thanked him profusely for it because I really wanted to try it. And I came in that day and I totally forgot about it. And it was handed to me and it was just like, here, enjoy, brother. Enjoy. And thank you, Jesus, for that. Because I'm smoking it now, and once again, it's really not even an inch in, and I'm already getting that feeling that I love to feel, which is this is gonna be a good one. This is just a closer look at the Martinez 50th anniversary cigar. As you can see, it's using a cellophane similar to the ones that Nelson Alfonso has switched to, which provide that open foot. You just squeeze out like this. Some people might say this is not their preferred cellophane, but I kind of like it. Let's look at this first. There's Jesus Martinez when he was younger. There is his father. Okay, and that's what he looked like in 1974, more or less, maybe a little older. What does it say there? I'll let you figure it out. I wanted to see what it said. So it says, I'm sure that a Martinez cigar is one of the best you will ever smoke. I was very curious of what it said, but I needed my glasses. And if we go back here, even with glasses on, I don't think I can make this out. It's not because I can't read script. I can't make it out. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. But there we go. Very nice. I kind of like it. I've heard it said that most people watching cigar reviews don't give a damn about the burn line. And some individuals actually get annoyed when a cigar reviewer cites how well his burn line is doing, or his ash, or anything like that. And what I would say to that is that no, it's not the most important thing, because you can have a cigar that gets wonky consistently and still find a place for it and enjoy it, despite the annoyance of having to touch it up consistently. But when you do have a cigar that does taste good, that's number one, that does taste good, and the burn line is performing very well, that does give you a certain sense of satisfaction. Not having to reach for the lighter, not having to worry about it. Also, just since we're on the topic, when your burn line is very wonky and you're not getting that even burn, the way that your cigar is burning at that point in time is not beneficial to the taste. I think that's obvious, right? Because if everything isn't, I mean, why do you toast your foot? You don't have to necessarily, because eventually everything evens out, right? But why do we now, modern day smokers, toast the foot, right? We want to get that char around the wrapper and the binder. We want that synergy, and then we want the filler to go along with it. I'm not saying anything that we don't usually talk about and know. I'm just saying I mentioned burn line because it's also aesthetically pleasing. It really is. When you see a cigar with a really nice burn line, it's like, I don't want to make any comparisons here, but because I thought of something and I was like, no, that might be inappropriate. But now you're gonna want to hear it, right? But no, I'm not. Yeah, 50 years in the biz, but 50 years in New York. And you know what Sinatra says, right? You know what he says. And that's really one of the most amazing things about this company, is that not just that they've been around since 1974, at a point in time when, like I said before, New York City cigar sales were okay, but were not great. And a lot of the older cigar manufacturers in New York City, I think Rosarios, and I forget the other Jewish gentlemen that were rolling cigars not far away from Martinez Cigars, all went out of business eventually. They all packed it up, and Martinez Cigars stayed put. And they really had to deal with a lot of, well, loss of income was the number one thing, right? I mean, until the boom, there was a rough stretch there. But luckily for Martinez Cigars, 1992 was a help to the cigar business for them, and all through the early 2000s. But I felt, at least for me, having gone there for a long time, and at one point not even really socializing, just kind of not going there and saying much, but just picking up a cigar and leaving. And whereas when I started to go several years ago, I tried to make my channel known and let them know who I was, and that way I could do little videos and things like that. But also because they were just so welcoming, they were just so nice, and I didn't expect that, and they were just so kind, and we just hit it off. We just all got along, and now I'm buddy with a lot of them there. But despite the buddiness, everyone at any given point will tell me, like, listen, you do a review on this, you be straight on it, you know. And from the very top, the message to me has always been, we don't want any consideration, you know, because we're nice and friendly. I mean, yeah, that's important, but we want you to tell the people about the cigar as it is, not as you want, or not as someone would want you to say, oh, this is a great cigar because we're friends or because we're, you know, sociable. That's not the way it works, and I stick to that code. You need to say that to me because, you know, that's just the way I am. I've had friends have who live across the world and have sent me cigars that they've made and have, to ask my opinion of what I thought of them, and I've just been honest. That's just the best policy, and it isn't always easy to be honest. It isn't. It's the harder thing to do. It's easier to lie. But again, for me, I used to go there in the probably some point in the 2000s, in mid 2000s, and I just didn't feel that Martinez Cigars was getting enough recognition for what they do, for what they've done, and I just felt that way, and I think several other people felt that way too, and I think that it kind of worked its way into the shop in a wonderful way, in which a few years ago I started to see a lot more of a social media presence. Some of the bands got a little nicer. Uh, Martin Cigars has always, excuse me, prided themselves on how well they blend the Dominican tobacco with the Nicaraguan tobacco. Their use of Sumatran for wrappers and binders. Their use of Nicaraguan for Nicaraguan puros, and not many Dominican puros. They've used in the past Peruvian. They've used Cameroon, African Cameroon, and recently things took a turn for the better. Plans, top secret plans for an expansion, uh, renovations at the original shop. But years back, their presence being more felt at conventions. And again, social media plays a role in that. Their rollers blend, becoming a star attraction. And the rollers blend just being, you know, a mix of short filler from the different things that they're working on, and they just roll them up into long panatella shapes, the kind that Daniel 505 loves, and he's always asking me to send them. Sorry, Daniel, I will send them to you next time. But there's that, and then there's the Patrimonio release a few years back that was amazing and is still amazing, and is comparable to a Fuente Opus X. I know you're saying that I'm you know, smoking something, right? That's not tobacco, but no. Patrimonio ranks up there with the Fuentes, and obviously not every single Opus X, right? But your basic one was that Fuente Opus X. So yeah, it's comparable to that, and it's an amazing cigar, and it's $12 to $14, I believe. Robusto in the Piramide. I think it's like a 55 ring gauge. And the reason I'm talking about that is just to show you about the quality and how I believe that wasn't getting recognized. And so I did some videos there, obviously, and I've continued to do videos there, and I will do so again in the future. But I'm glad to see that they're finally getting that attention that they deserve. In regards to the tobaccos, they've used Ariparaca, they've used Ecuadorian Sumatra, Indonesian Sumatra. We've got them using, now I can tell you, Mexican San Andres. So this cigar measures in at 5.5 by 50, Robusto Vitola, Mexican San Andres wrapper, Ecuadorian Sumatran binder. Filler is a blend of Nicaraguan and Dominican tobaccos. Long filler, of course. I'm getting a lot of that sweetness from the wrapper. And then it's following into a nice woodsy finish with a little bit of earth, dry earth, and some pepper. Some spice. And it's like a crackle of pepper in the finish. And it does have a drying finish. So it does kind of dry the palate a bit. I'd recommend water or soda. If you drink soda pop, you should accompany that with this. But in thinking of pairings, obviously you can go in so many directions. If you just want to avoid sugar and alcohol, then water is great, and it will do the job to keep pace with the dryness factor here. And that happens in a lot of cigars. That's not a negative thing. It's just the way it is. You know, some cigars are going to have a little bit more of a drier finish. Sometimes it's only in the first or in the final third. And I mean, that's why we keep things like water around, or soda. Soda is good as well. Or if you're looking for a bourbon, this would pair well with a bourbon, with a nice hearty bourbon, something 100 proof. Yeah. Does that mean that this cigar is a strong cigar? I'd say it's a full body cigar, for sure. For sure. From the start, it's a medium plus, and it starts to build from there after the second inch, and it really it's strong, but I don't think that you feel that it's a raw strength, you know. And I've talked about that before, how cigar makers can kind of control the strength using certain leaves, and you know, obviously their choice of binder and wrapper all play a part, but duh. I know you guys know, but you know, sometimes I speak like this because I have to be aware that someone could be watching this channel for the very first time. They have had one or two cigars maybe, or they're thinking of having their first. And you know, if you try to only speak to the connoisseur all the time, then okay, you'll carve a niche for the connoisseur group. But I want everybody to kind of just enjoy what I share about cigars, whether it's their history, or whether it's something like this in regards to an anniversary where they're celebrating 50 years in New York City. Wow. And it's only now for the 50th anniversary that I have ever seen any change in that little shop. And that, I think, is a good thing, because they're changing it, but they're not changing the layout. They're just improving certain little things like lighting, you know, cleaning up things, moving things into better placement of things. But the layout is the same, and it's going to feel the same for the individual who's been going there for the last 20, 30 years. You're just going to feel a little bit more comfortable, as I did on my last stop there when I got this cigar. Did I thank you again, Jose? Jesus, thank you. Thank you again. It's always good when you get a good cigar, and it's even better when you get it, you know? But, decent aroma, you know? Nothing to write home about on the aroma. I think it's decent. But I like the way it's burning. It's not burning, it's burning cool. I like that. You see that? If you can do that, you're burning cool. You're burning all right. If you can't do that, then your cigar is burning a little too hot, and most of the time it's our fault, puffing on it too much. But yeah, I'm gonna take some time with this cigar, and then we'll get back to it. It's a little later in the day now, so the temperature is probably around 60, 61, as it was a bit warmer earlier. I'm getting this rush of spice in the finish, a little bit of hay, and cocoa. And that cocoa is more up front. And then you feel the spice sort of It's cocoa, bit of cream, a spice, a bit of hay, woodsy notes, maybe some cedar notes. I guess that's what I'm picking up on. An inherent earthiness, but not overly earthy. Smooth, dry finish. I mean, that's describing the cigar pretty good, in my opinion. But in strength, it's close to full strength, but it's not a full strength bomb either. I hate to say, oh well, this cigar reminds me of this cigar, but sometimes that happens, right? Because it's just the way it is. Uh, this is if you're into tatuaje, right? If you're into my father's cigars, then you're gonna probably enjoy this, and you're gonna find this pleasing to you. But I think that if you're into milder cigars, this particular cigar, you may not feel as comfortable with. Because if you're into milder cigars, obviously, you know, this is close to full strength. It's got a big body on it. Rich, dense smoke. Earlier, I said the aroma was nothing to write home about, and then off camera, and this happens, I guess, sometimes when you're smoking outdoors, you get wind and so forth. You don't always pick up on the aroma right away unless it's a very prominent aroma. But in this case, I got a whiff of it, and it was pretty good. It was nice. It's enjoyable. Oh, but wait, an aroma is not that big a deal in the whole structure of a cigar review, right? Because all that matters is if it's a good cigar, right? I mean, I know you guys have heard that recently. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's all that really matters if it's a good cigar. But I think that a lot of us, we and some of you can relate, some of you can't. We look at the whole smoking experience, that every part of it, you know, from the draw to, because how can it be a good cigar if it doesn't have a good draw, right? Like even if the tobacco's in it, and I've said this before, even if the tobacco's in it are exquisite and very good tobaccos and a very good blend, if the draw is off, the experience is going to be off. I think that's common sense, right? And with regards to the aroma, you don't need a great aroma, but when you have it, it's a plus, right? It's a plus for those of us that like a nice, rich, good smelling aroma on a cigar. Never mind what the rest of the people think that are around us, if there are people around you when you're smoking. But my point is really that for a cigar review, I like to include my complete experience in it. And of course, not every little detail is laid out. Not every little detail. The cut that you're going to choose for your cigar, that's preference. It's really preference. Yeah, there's, talk of this cut being preferable for this vitola and so forth. And I understand that as well. But yeah, the whole experience is important to me, and I like to relate that to you. I want you to know what I'm feeling, not just because this is not my job, to review cigars. It's not. This is something that I like to do, and for those of you that tune in and listen to my opinions and what I talk about, you know that I'm not trying to BS you and get you to buy a cigar. I'm not selling anything. Really, I'm not. I'm not endorsing anything. I'm not promoting anything. I smoke. I smoke historical cigars. I know a gentleman who runs a business dealing with vintage cigars, and he's salt of the earth, one of the best guys I know in the cigar industry or in the cigar biz, and it's just a wonderful feeling to be able to experience some of these old cigars. But at the end of the day, this is fun. This is supposed to be fun. You know, uh, Whether you're talking about a 50-year-old cigar or a brand new cigar, it's supposed to be fun. It's not about arguing with one another or anything like that. It's just about, a lot of it comes down to preferences. Yeah, it does. But then there are facts, right? Like a fact that this is a Mexican San Andres wrapper. It is a Mexican San Andres wrapper, and because it's a Mexican San Andres wrapper, it's gonna taste different. Duh. The Mexican San Andres has been a cult favorite lately. I mean, it's like everyone loves the Mexican San Andres wrapper, and I think a lot of people got more into the Mexican San Andres wrapper when you started to see less of the Connecticut broadleaf used on cigars, because I think Connecticut broadleaf lost a bit of steam during the shortage, and you know, it's it's coming back. It'll be, full effect. Some of us still have broadleaf cigars in our humidors, and you can still buy them. You just don't see it as much. At least I haven't seen it as much on a lot of other cigars. But Mexican San Andres, yeah. About the band, you saw it. You know, you're gonna see it with the cigar. In a minute. Before I started smoking, up close up of the band and so forth. I love the band, but I wish it would have been a two band. I wish it would have been a double band, because that way you could have peeled you could have peeled that off right here, and you would have still had the top with Jesus and his father. And I just think that that would have been cool, so that you could still be smoking it with that top band on, primary band. But that's not a big deal, really. It's just me thinking out loud here. As I head into the nub state, I just want to say it's been very meaty, and that woodsy note in the finish. Rich smoke. Listen, folks, I just want to say thank you for watching this episode of Backyard Cigars, and thank you for joining me as I really enjoyed this 50th anniversary Martinez cigar, and I have another, and I think I'm going to age it for about a year, and because I think it has aging potential, and and then for those of you that might want to kind of tone down some of the strength, there you go. Till next time on Backyard Cigars.